Hi everyone, welcome to Kelly's Kitchen. We're doing an experiment today. Come on in. Okay, so today we're making bread. I know, that's not an experiment. Here's the experiment part. We have chicken eggs, duck eggs, and a goose egg. And I want to see what's going to happen when I use the exact same ingredients besides the eggs, what the bread's going to look like when we're done. I've heard that using duck or goose eggs helps make the bread rise, or any baked good rise a little bit better. So let's see if this works. First thing I did is I have my flour here. Now this is gluten-free bread. I've used a combination of flours. I don't know if you can see this, but I mixed a bunch of different flours in here and I'm gonna just kind of whisk them together. There's sorghum flour, chestnut flour. One of my least favorites is probably the quinoa flour. For some reason, I just have a hard time with that. But I do use it occasionally. I mix it in with a combination of them so that you don't get the weird, it's got a funky taste to it, in my opinion. We have the Bob's Red Mill flour. That's a combination of baking flour. You're supposed to be able to use it 1 for 1. I do use that pretty often. Always make sure to read your ingredients. So this has tapioca flour, and it probably wouldn't be my first choice for a 1-to-1 flour exchange. I also use quite a bit amaranth flour. I like that. There's rice bran, there's brown rice flour, there's white rice flour, there's coconut flour, almond flour, sweet potato flour. But my favorite probably is cassava flour. I love this stuff. It doesn't have a taste like any of the other flours. To me, it's as close to a regular wheat flour that you can get, but without the gluten in it. But if you're going low carb, obviously go for the almond flour. This is by far the only flour you're gonna get that has the lowest amount of carbs in it. So again, mine's a combination, so I'm just gonna take each bowl and whisk up those flours a little bit to get them all combined. So what I have here is 2 1/4 cups of flour. And again, this is probably 1/4 cup of almond flour, sorghum flour, amaranth flour, chestnut flour, rice bran flour. I can't remember what else I used in here. Cassava flour. I just threw a combination of them all in there. So we're gonna mix that up, and we're gonna take a tablespoon of baking powder and 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. And that's going in each one also. So we'll whisk that together real quick, each one. So now I got my next group here. This is a quick bread. It doesn't have yeast in it. It doesn't have sugar in it. So we use the baking powder to help make it rise. The other thing that's going to help make it rise is the egg whites. We're going to whip those separately. And I think that's also where we're going to get the benefit of using the duck to goose to chicken eggs. So we'll see how that turns out for us. And my last bowl here. Buckwheat flour was another flour that I used in here, and I forgot to mention that. Okay, so those are all whisked together. And now we have to separate our egg yolks from our egg whites. So I'm going to do that next, and we'll probably speed along this process just so that you're not going to sit here and watch me whip up the eggs every time. So we'll separate them out. Put the yolks in one bowl, the whites in the other. Everyone has their own way of doing this. I found just cracking it and letting the whites drip out works perfectly well. All these ingredients have to be at room temperature also, including the eggs. And we have buttermilk here, and that is also at room temperature. We're going to whip these up. So here's our chicken eggs, and it's a medium peak stiffness that you want those to. So now we're gonna go ahead with our duck eggs. Oops, I gotta get my another bowl here. Okay, so let's whip up the 2 duck eggs. Okay, so there's our duck eggs, and I can tell you that those took longer to whip up than the chicken ones did, and there's definitely a texture difference. I know you can't see it on camera, but these almost look spongier, where this looks creamier. So, and I heard that duck eggs are richer in texture, so that could be part of it too. So now we're going on to the goose egg. We're getting this bad boy. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but that sucker is huge. The reason why I'm able to do this, I have a fabulous girl at work who brings me eggs. She has a little farmette. I shouldn't say it's little. I give her so much credit. I can't believe all the animals and stuff and what she does with them. She has so many animals. She does such great things. Well, she has chickens and ducks and geese, and she was the one that brought me this. Now I just realized I put that in the wrong bowl. So we're gonna grab this one here and flip this around because I'm too busy talking, but that's okay. So check that out. Check the egg yolk on the goose egg. Here's the duck egg. And then here's the chicken eggs. Now, granted, I did crack the chicken eggs, but look at how much of a difference. It's unbelievable, the size. So this fabulous girl that I work with, she has a little farm. She has a farm. I'm not calling it little anymore. And she was so gracious enough to give me these eggs so that we could try this experiment. So I really, really, really appreciate that she did that for me. And I'm super excited. This is the first time I've ever used geese eggs before. Okay, so there we go. Here's our goose egg white, here's our duck egg white, and here's our chicken egg whites. Now by volume, if you look at it, the chicken egg whites obviously looks like there's more in there. So we'll see what happens. The duck and the goose, I would say, are pretty close to being the same. Okay, so let's get this one out of the way here. We have our dry ingredients whisked together. We have our egg yolks. So this is our chicken eggs. We're gonna put those in. Then we have 1.5 cups of buttermilk. If you don't, and this is again room temperature. If you don't have buttermilk, you can make your own buttermilk. You can use milk with 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice, and that would give it the same flavor. So 1.5 cups of buttermilk. We're gonna pour that in. And then we have 6 tablespoons of any kind of oil you want to use. You could use canola oil. I kind of stay away from canola oil. You could use olive oil, avocado oil. But what I have today is a combination of 2 tablespoons of ghee and 4 tablespoons of coconut oil. And again, I actually melted it a little bit to make sure that it was nice and warm, or at least room temperature. Okay, so we're gonna get this mixed all together just until combined. That should be good. And now we're gonna throw in our egg whites here. Again, these are the chicken eggs first, and we're folding them in only. So now we have a greased bread pan we're gonna pour this into. And this is going in the oven, 350, for 40 to 45 minutes. I'm gonna get the first one in, and then we're moving on to the next two. So that filled about 3/4 of the pan, which would be typical. We'll get this in the oven. I'll come back and get these next two mixed up, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so now we have our duck. We have our dry ingredients mixed together. We're gonna add our 2 egg yolks. We're adding our 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Room temperature. 6 tablespoons of oil. Again, we're just mixing it to combine it. Looks good. Now we're adding our egg whites. So let's put those in again. We're just folding them in. Make sure we get them all. This is really going to be interesting because, again, I didn't feel like there was as much volume for the egg whites between the chicken and the duck or the goose. So let's see what happens. I'm also not sure the egg whites are holding together as well with the duck ones either. Maybe I should have did them last. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Let's get that in here. Okay, so volume-wise, that looks about the same too. So we'll get this in the oven, and then we'll work on our last one. Okay, so now let's get this bad boy for an egg yolk in there. Now, my daughter did try these. She has tried duck eggs before. Duck eggs are very rich. She does them over easy. If you're not used to that, you might not like duck eggs just eating them like that. She tried the goose egg like that, and she said that it's not as rich of a flavor or texture. So something to think about. Maybe you need to try goose egg instead of a duck egg if you haven't tried one yet. So again, we're just combining everything. Then we'll fold in our goose egg white. All right, that's in. Pour it into our loaf pan. Okay, this one's gonna go in the oven. Now I do have double oven, so I'm able to do 2 at a time, which helps. At least that way I feel like they're all getting fair heat exchange. If I have the one in each oven, they're not competing at all. So we'll get this one in the oven as soon as the first one comes out. We have about 35 minutes to go, 32 minutes to go on that one. And then we're gonna see what happens. I'm so excited to see how these all look when we're done with them. Okay, so we got our bread out of the oven. Chicken, duck, and goose. I really thought that the duck eggs would have made it rise higher. So I'm really surprised at this right now. The duck eggs also took longer to bake. That took a full 45 minutes, whereas the chicken was only 40. The goose also took almost exactly 45 minutes as well. So I was a little surprised by that also. So we're gonna cut into these just to see what they look like real quick. We're gonna take a piece of each, and I'm gonna see if you can tell any difference here. So right off the bat, I don't notice anything. I'm gonna zoom in, here's chicken, and I'll put the name of them on each one. Duck, goose. I feel like I'm playing the kids game, duck, duck, goose. So chicken, duck, goose. So take a look at that. See if you notice anything. I don't. They're still pretty warm. So I'm gonna just take a bite of each one. I actually think the chicken one looks a little fluffier. It definitely has the consistency of a quick bread. And maybe that's part of it too. I don't know. Maybe I should have tried baking with a regular yeast bread. That might have to be the next one we try. This is the duck. That one is a little denser. Definitely a little bit denser of a bread. More structure to it. And the goose one, I'm not sure what it is, but out of the three, I like the goose one the best. I can't tell you why. It's a medium, it's almost a texture between, this one's a little spongy, this one's pretty dense, and that one's actually kind of right in between. Really like the goose. I think we're gonna have to give that a shot again. We're gonna maybe try a cake or something with it next time. I really hope you guys enjoyed our experiment today. Please like, subscribe, and share. All your comments are greatly appreciated. If you've tried it before, let me know what you guys think of the different kinds of eggs, and we're gonna do this again. Have a great day.